If you are an estate or letting agent or someone who is interested in the property market, then this show is for you. This is the UK Property Market Stats Show with today's special guest, Iain McKenzie. Thanks for joining me today, Iain.
Thank you for inviting, Chris. Really pleased to be back.
I think it's your third time back. You've obviously done a cracking job. For those of you who have not watched the UK Property Market Stats Show, this is a stats show especially for, as I said, for estate agents or letting agents or anyone who has particular interest in the UK property market. The British are obsessed with property, and that's why there's an awful lot of data out there talking about house prices and what's exactly happening. But actually, if you think about it, the whole sales process is from the first time the house comes on the market all the way through until the keys are handed over. And the land registry, the Halifax, and the nationwide stats show what's happening at the bottom end of the funnel, the houses that have actually sold. What we like to do in this show is look at the top end of the funnel, because if we can work out how many houses are coming onto the market, what price they're coming on the market at, how many of them are actually selling, what price they're selling for, whether they're being price reduced or not, what they're, as I said, selling, and basically everything at the top end, we can actually work out what's going to be happening to all those stats that you all hang on 6 or 9 months before they actually happen. Today, I'm joined by Iain McKenzie, who is, and I say this every week, but big in the game. Iain is responsible, as one of his major jobs, is being the boss man of the Guild of Property Professionals, who are an affiliate group of over 800 independent estate agents. And he has his finger on the pulse of what's happening in the property market. He used to be a massive director for the countrywide network in the London and South East region. So he's an ex-estate agent as well. So he knows his onions. And he's here today to join me to have a chat about the stats, what's happening in the property market. So you can find out, really what's happening. Now, just before we kick off, in the last 3 weeks, we've had the best ever weeks for sales. And we've had some amazing stats on net sales, which is the number of sales less the houses falling through. So let's find out if the doomongers are all right and it's all end of the world, or the property market is doing okay. Shall we dive in, Iain?
Feet first. Let's go for it.
Let's do it, baby. Let's do it. Now, as always, boys and girls, so just confirm you should have some yellow graphs on there. Is that correct, mate?
Yeah, I have. Yep.
Beautiful. So we always start off with so just so you're aware, the show is as follows. First 20 minutes talks about the national picture. We'll spend 10 or 15 minutes talking about the regional stats, and then we'll deep dive into a city in the UK. I think it is a city, and it is a very, very famous city that was made famous for a certain Dr. Foster. But if you can work out who it is, brownie points on that one. So back we go. So we're starting off with new instructions. And the first thing we're doing is looking at this week. This is week 13. For those of you, this year's 2023, week 13 is Monday, the 27th of March to Sunday, the 2nd of April. And they're all the pretty same. I mean, obviously 2020 we're just about hitting the COVID year, the week, aren't we, in 2020 now? So listings were down. Yeah. Much to say on this one, mate?
Just a good, robust set of figures, isn't it, really? I mean, it's following the trend. It's there or thereabouts. Nothing really exciting to report either way. It looks pretty strong, pretty good.
I mean, to give you an idea, this is the very best week for listings all year, with, as I said, 34,549. Last week, 33.9. Week before, 33.8. Week before, 34. Week before, 34.4. So and it has been pretty steady. I find it fascinating that this remains, whatever's happening in the UK property market, to the millions of people that are living there and the different scenarios that you can really put, in terms of the number of houses that are put on the market each week. The minimum has been 32,200 and the maximum is this week at 34,500. You would expect that to be all over the place. Iain, why do you think that there's almost like a natural cadence on the number of properties for sale, or was that just one of those things that none of us knows.
I think that so if you go back to the global financial crisis in 2007, transactional volume dropped off of a cliff, and it went down to, what was it, circa 750, I'm going from memory now, 750,000 completions that took place that year. And that, in my mind, and the evidence showed, is that people that had to move. You've got discretionary moves and you've got non-discretionary moves. And the non-discretionary moves, what does that mean? People that have to move house. And so the line that's in the sand from the UK perspective, based upon evidence and fact and data, is that 750,000 people need to move. Anything above that is people that want to move. And I think what this is showing is that, yes, we've had the Ukraine war, which is going on and it needs to end. And yes, we've had the cost of living crisis. And yes, we've had trustonomics and we've had all of those things. But humankind just accepts things and moves on. And people's circumstances are that they want to move, they need to move, and that's what this figure represents. It's normalizing. People are normalizing the situation that we're in, and they're just getting on with it.
Indeed. And then boys and girls in the state agency ran 2017, 18 and 19 were the post-Brexit years.
Yeah.
And again, things were kind of on hold. So I think, what we've had in the last couple of years in 21 and 22 were just the extra froth. You can't use those years as base years. Those are exceptional years.
Yeah, I would argue that the last normal years that we had in the housing market were probably 14 and 15, which is when there was stability in government, no Brexit, etc.
Interesting. Right, let's have a look. This is the average price of a property coming on the market. This week it stands at 420,000. Last week 424, the week before 427, 430 the week before, 419 the week before, and 422 the week before that. There seems to be a pretty much steadiness in terms of the last 4 weeks, last 5 weeks. And again, comparing 23 against the same 13 week, again, you would expect house prices, if house prices rise, then asking prices by definition rise as well, don't they? Because
correct.
Okay. Moving on to the cumulative listings year to date, and I think this is a fascinating stat because it's all very good looking at the week-on-week figures. Why don't we actually do a starting from 1st of Jan? And again, looking at the stats, again, for those of you that, the reason, just to give you an idea, the number of properties that were on the market in 2007 versus what was on the market at the start of 2008 across the UK doubled. And basically a greater supply of properties, demand was diminished because people weren't able to borrow money so much. That's why prices came down, because great demand and supply. So therefore, we as estate agents need a decent amount of supply, and also homeowners and home buyers want a decent amount of supply, so they've got something to choose from. That needs to be Goldilocks, not too low, not too high. Again, moving quite nicely there, 407, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm straight from the coalface this morning, seeing a brilliant firm in Portsmouth, Bernard's, 5-branch firm in the Guild, and they've talked about their available stock having very nearly doubled in the last 6 months. And we talked about what's your vendor strategy, how are you looking after your customers, what's the vendor's expectations, talking about individual strategies for individual cases. And I know we're talking at the macro level here, but the individual sellers listening to this don't care about the macro, they just care about themselves, quite rightly so. So there is just a watch out in terms of more available stock, because listing to sell ratios over the last 2 years have changed. And we've got to remember in this industry is that we've got people, there was an expression that was used in this meeting, which is let's get back to basics. And the challenge that I called was, what are basics? What are the basics to you as a person that's been in the industry for 35 years versus a person that's been in the industry for 35 months? Because they're two different things.
It's interesting. I was talking to a valuer from the Northeast today who has been in the business 3 years, and he said I was basically parachuted in and almost being an order taker. And he didn't say it in a derogatory way. And now he's had to pivot. And I think there's an awful lot of you guys who are in your 20s who've only known this sort of market because now it's a bit tougher. You've now got to work for you. Listings are a little bit easier to come by. But are you overvaluing them, and also are you actually getting them bloody things sold? It is interesting. What I've been noticing is If you are looking at your own property market, there isn't just one property market. There's lots of micro markets. And, and I think the magic thing as an estate agent you should be doing is each week or each month looking at how many semis have come on the market, how many are for sale, how many are sold. Also detached and terraced. You can split that down into 2-bed terrace, 3-bedroom terrace, because there are some micro markets where there is too much supply and not enough demand, and there are other markets like bungalows, which I'm making generalization, but tends to be the case, where it's the other way around. And your job as an estate agent isn't just to say go on the market and have or Rightmove and Super and look at the comps. Is right, what's happening to this marketplace? Where do I need to be? Because if there's too many 2-bedroom terraced houses, the world don't need another overpriced one. And sometimes it's worth walking away, isn't it?
I've made that in my notes today, is that now is the time to walk away from the wrong valuation at the wrong price with the wrong fee. 100%.
Well, I was always told that I'm sure it has a name, but there's a triangle, and at one end of the triangle is fee, one of the other ends is vendor motivation, and the other one is asking price. And boys and girls in estate agency land, if you have not got two of those, walk away. So you either need great vendor motivation and a decent fee. Don't worry about the price, because the motivation will bring it down. And if you work it all around, all of them will work out that you win. But if you only got one of the three, please walk away, because you're not doing yourself any good. And we're going to look at some stats with the Dr. Foster, wherever he went to, and we're going to be comparing the different estate agents in Gloucester. So this is back to the national stats, Ian. We are comparing 23 against 17, 18 and 19, because 2020 was a COVID year, 21, 22 were exceptional years. And again, the number of listings is working quite well. If you're wondering what those dips on the blues and the yellows are, those are when Easter took place. Okay, so in Easter the numbers got dropped down. So don't be surprised next week if the show shows a drop in figures, boys and girls, because it's Easter and you've got less days working. You're all eating your Easter eggs. You're not putting houses on the market. You're not clicking the word sold. So don't worry about that. Again, it's just going quite nicely there, isn't it? Listings wise, nothing too high, nothing too low.
You talked about the doom mongers and looking at the top end of the funnel, and I've still got a view on that as per usual, which is, so I think that the housing market is the perfect housing market. I think it's the perfect housing market for a good agent that knows what they're about and knows how to manage expectation of their customers. The reason that people are not feeling so good about it is that the cash flow has been affected by trustonomics, because we saw a load of fall throughs at the back end of last year. First quarter is always pretty shit for cash flow anyway. But this show is to talk about the activity, and the activity is actually really very robust.
Indeed, I'm hearing an awful lot of estate agents are finding cash flow a little bit hard at the moment. So my thoughts go out to you on that one. Let's move on. Let's get back and go back to the stats. Okay, so we're now moving on to price changes. And we start off with a number of price changes. 19,000. Again, the stock levels are higher. That works out on a running national average of about price changes on about 7.5% to 8% of your stock monthly.
Yeah.
Do you think that's enough?
It's very easy to standardize price reductions, so to say. So the straight answer is no. I think that you should, if you were going to set some metrics, it should be 10% of your stock by a certain percentage. That's what I would be working towards. But, and you talked a moment ago, and we will go and meet Dr. Foster in a moment, but actually when you look at your town, you need to be a little bit more precise than just having a headline number that you're trying to chase. It needs to be the right advice to the right customer. And I have concerns around price reductions because they're averaging at 5%, and it's almost as if agents are, in my day, getting their abacus out, in the 90s and noughties getting their calculator out, and nowadays just looking at a data graph and showing, well, let's just reduce it by 5%. And my concern is that if you've overvalued the property in the first instance, you're talking about a 60-day cycle to get it down to the price that it should have been when you first put it onto the market. And it might not be the best advice to the customer because you're chasing shadows. So I just think that agents should really review their vendor strategy and their marketing strategy. I don't like calling it price reductions because that sounds sinister. I like to call it a marketing strategy to obtain the result that the customer needs.
price realignment. You like that? Now then, let's go back. Now this is, if there's a figure that's sticking out like a sore thumb, the average value of a property. Now remember, this is the average price of the property before it was reduced. We're not looking at the percentage of the reduction. We're just seeing what price range. Now for the last 3 or 4, well, here we go. In week 6, the average price for a property being reduced 396. Then we'll go on 396, 395, 396, 393, 391, 402, 512.
Okay.
So we've got some of the big boy estate agents and big girls.
Yeah.
All London agents. We'll get to find out which ones they are in a second. They're doing some hefty reductions there on the bigger stock.
Yeah, and but by the definition of averages, the larger a percentage of larger stock that reduces skews the figures, doesn't it?
It does. But that is a massive drop when you consider you could hardly put a fag paper between the two of them.
Indeed.
Now let's go on and talk about gross sales and gross sales. Now, this is getting a bit boring now, but last week was the best week since September. The week before that was the best week since September. The week before that was the best week since September. And the best week before that was the best week before September. Okay. I mean, let me just show you the magical spreadsheet, and you should be able to see it now. Okay.
Yep.
Green is good and red is bad. Okay. So so I'll just move that. Let me just do that. We'll take that down to 75%. Here we go. We'll just move that out. So there you go, boys and girls. You can quite clearly see across the top what week we are talking about. And then across the top, we have got, national new instructions, the price change we've gone to. We've now gone to sold subject to contract and 24,819. And the average price of a property sold 362, which again, if you actually look at this graph here, it has been pretty level that the average price has been £356,000. Again, that's not to say prices going up or down. We don't talk about house prices on this show unless we have specific data. Plenty of other people out there that profess to know more about that. But that is, it just shows that that there's confidence in the market. Why do you think the people are out there pouring petrol on the fire of the doom-mongers? And I know, let's be frank, boys and girls, this is a house of cards. This could all fall down if something awful happened in the world and all the sales fall through. But at the end of the day, you need to sell the bloody things to get them sold and exchanged.
Yeah, I just think the point that I made before is that the people are resilient and they just get on with things and they understand that life goes on and they need to do what they need to do. So for me, if you'd have asked me in January, describe the year in quarters based upon the weather, I'd have said the first quarter is going to have dark clouds, second quarter will have grey clouds, and the sun might come out in the third quarter, and the fourth quarter should be okay. But actually, I think that I'd shift that opinion now, which is the first quarter is grey clouds, relatively speaking. That's only because of the size of the pipelines that the agents went into the first quarter with. But activity, I think the sun's going to come out. In fairness, I think in the second quarter of this year, I think the market's going to be relatively robust. Like you say, there are things that can change, but where it stands now is a good place.
I mean, to give you an idea, and we're going to come on and talk about this, but the average fall through rate in the quarter 4 was 38.1%. That's number of fall throughs compared to gross sales, which we'll go on to a little bit in a second. But this week we are, well, you're going to find out in a second, but I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Yeah. So gross sales going quite nicely. The average price of a property sold, Iain, is still belligerently hanging around that 362 mark. Last week 361, week before 358, 358, the week before 349, 351. So there is still a 16% difference between the average price of a property coming on the market around 430, 420, and what they're selling it for around 358. So again, that just shows that the bigger stuff has a less of a chance of selling, doesn't it?
Yes, at the macro. And again, what agents need to do, guild members, get on and use the Insight. Chris, I know that you're a big fan of Insight and you haven't mentioned it this time.
I will do, don't worry.
Yeah, and quite rightly so. You need to understand your local marketplace, and if you've got a growth strategy for your business, go and target the right stock that you need to get. Go to the right roads, go to the right areas, and go and list, or go and spend your money prospecting the houses and the types of property that you need that's going to get the right result.
I mean, in our day, Ian, when you had hair and I was slim, we used to target particular main roads because that was where the eyeballs are. Now you have so much data at your fingertips. You can target particular house types and see what market's moving and what isn't. Use this technology to your advantage before the chat GPTs take over this world and the robots take over this world, and then we'll all be out of a job.
And when you're registering applicants, listen to what it is that they're saying and actually start to capture that data. There's nothing better than listening to the consumer. And I think that is one of the downsides of data, is that data doesn't care about your feelings. Whereas when you're buying a house, you really do care about your feelings. So go and find out what's really motivating the customers from a buyer's perspective. And I know we always put the focus on sellers, we do, but in a transitional marketplace, going back to basics, going back to the 80s and 90s when the market was shit, sorry to swear, you really had to nurture your customers, your applicants, in a way that increased your ratios. And that's the market that we're in today.
Back to basics, as you say, but as you say, what are the basics? Boys and girls, listen to Ian because he knows his onions. Cumulative gross sales year to date. So everyone was started off, and again, the gross sales that was quite a way behind the 17 and 18, and now we've now overtaken in the last few weeks 17. And I think the way we're going at the moment, looking at the stats, and we'll come on to look at this in a second, we'll soon be taking over 18 very soon.
Great.
Because we've been pulling the gap back. This is the number of gross sales based on a week-by-week basis, again, comparing 17, 18, and 19. And again, it's looking really good. The dips, again, are more of your Easter breaks. So don't worry. So we're going to go through a little bit of an ups and downs. And again, don't forget, boys and girls, we have got more bank holidays in May than you can shake a stick at. So that is going to skew the figures up slightly. Okay.
But you can see that's an upward trajectory. That's a very positive graph.
Hence why we said it is the best week since September.
Yeah.
Right, moving on, falling throughs. Now, again, for those of people that don't watch, who aren't estate agents, sorry, when a sale gets agreed, it goes into an estate agent's pipeline. And if you're selling 10 houses a month, you probably will have 30 or 40 sales in the pipeline bubbling away, because it takes on average about 19 weeks for a property to sell between this offer being agreed and handing the keys over. If during that week a couple of houses fall through, that is what's called a sales fall through. The average number of sales that fall through out of the whole last 7 years is 5,000, not just for week 13, but for the whole 7 years is 5,229. Again, fall throughs, we've just had a slight uplift on there, 5,068 compared to 4,800 last week, 4,900 the week before, and 5,000. So again, bubbling along there. It's awful when it does fall through. But what is interesting is that then follows on through to net sales. Okay, now we're going to come on and talk about the percentage of fall throughs in a second, because there's some amazing stats there, which is good news for the property market. Again, if you recall, there was an awful lot of properties that fell through this week because of COVID, so that's why that figure is so low. But again, comparing 2023 to 17, 18, and 19. Not bad, eh, mate?
It's really good. And it does make sense if you think about it, because the buyers that we have today have, those that need mortgages have got mortgages. They've gone through their MMR process, they've checked the affordability. They know what interest rate they're going to sign up to if they're going for a fixed rate mortgage. So they're making decisions based upon the world that we live in today. And that's my point of just getting on with it.
I mean, it's interesting that the mortgage rates, the average mortgage rates that are being offered today are the same that they were 2 weeks before the trust budget.
That is, and the other thing that's really interesting about, so when the Bank of England put the base rate up due to the surprise increase in inflation, the very next day fixed rate mortgages dropped. So lenders have geared into their swap rate. They know what the market is. They're still feeling very confident about lending money.
And again, boys and girls, you as estate agents, if all you're doing is looking at your comparables and going out and putting houses on the market, then I'm sorry, you're just you're glorified double glazing salesman, and you're selling a commodity. You are a trusted advisor, and you should know this stuff like swap rates. And if you don't, this is a new website. Take this down, Iain. It's called GOOGLE. Okay, all right, okay. And basically, you ask what is a swap rate, and it will tell you. And you can go into the homeowner's home and you can actually say, well, you know, why have interest rates gone down? Because the swap rates have changed. Well, what's a swap rate? Well, a swap rate is, and off you go. But if you don't know these things, then I'm sorry, you're just a glorified salesman you might as well go and sell a double glazing salesman. Nothing wrong with double glazing salesman. But at the end of the day,
we are doing a very good job.
The magic thing is this: we are property professionals. We are not salespeople.
Correct.
Right, cumulative net sales year to date. Now, we are presently on 211,867. That is, we are comparing it against the average of 17, 18, and 19. 3 or 4 weeks ago, that was in the late 80s.
Right, that's a really good trend, isn't it?
So therefore, 23 is slowly catching up the average of 17, 18, and 19 on the relevant week to date, year to date.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is the exchange ratio, and I know you don't look at the bottom of the funnel, but the exchange ratio first quarter would show an annualized run rate of a 20% reduction over last year. But that, as I said, is due to the fall throughs in the last quarter that you referred to earlier. I'm pretty confident that we're going to get up to the million mark from a transactional basis for this year. It's just a good market, but what that means in the month by month is that we've got some catching up to do based upon the previous run rate, which means that there's going to be some really good activity. So it's a great market for a good agent.
And obviously, you've got to battle through this through this cash flow issue, which again, my thoughts go out with you. And look at it. It shocks me how many estate agents are bailing out on marketing when it's the marketing that's going to get them the business and get them out of it. But that's the problem with the estate agency is that the stuff you spend now won't get you the money for 9 to 12 months, if not more. And it's really hard work to play the long game. Let's just whiz through some other stats, which I know some people are interested in. Gross sales as a percentage of listings is a good judge. And again, look, gross sales as a percentage of listings is good, but sales is even better. So the 7-year weekly average is 76%. We're at 71, which is better than 17, 18, and 19. Just jump in if you've got anything to say on that. I'll go to the next one. Sale fall throughs. We're presently at 20.42. To give you an idea, so the average, the average over, hold on a second, let me just get the magic little thing out, Hold on, no, there we go, hold on. The average since the week 2 has been 21.4. Let's just go back. The average for Q4, 38.19. So half as many houses are falling through.
Which is great. And I would suspect that, I mean, you really need to get in to understand the reasons behind the fall throughs, but I would be pretty certain that we're back to the age-old problem that we've always had, which is people not being able to find the onward sale to move to.
Okay, hey, and then estate agents could probably go and find that property for that vendor. Wow, that would be fantastic, wouldn't it? If any estate,
yeah. I mean, why would you think of doing that, crikey?
I don't know, mate. You know, it's called good old-fashioned estate agency, back to basics. Now, boys and girls, all these graphs are available, and we're just about to jump onto the spreadsheet. But I've done the screen dumps for you, so you can download these and use them for your own personal use. But they are not to be used on social media without express permission of myself. To be honest with you, I wouldn't be using them on social media simply because who the hell would want to look at something like this? Right. So let's go and have a look at the stats, and let's go and look at the regional figures, and then we will go to, if you haven't guessed it already, well, no, let's keep them guessing, but I think Dr. Foster is waiting for us. Okay, so the magic thing is this, boys and girls, we're not going to spend too long on this. Green is good, red is bad. Okay, so it looks like the East Midlands is doing quite well there, mate, doesn't it?
It does. Yep, good agents in the Midlands.
Okay, east of England, so that's your Norfolk and Suffolks. Again, looking quite well there. Again, green is good, red is bad. Inner London, we talked about, and again, we said we thought some of that uplift could be London, but again, here we go. We've got inner London prices. It could be that could London does skew the market. It's amazing when you take out inner London what happens to the figures. But again, just have a look. Let's not go into too much detail. I want to get ourselves off to Gloucester. Oh, dropped myself in it there. But again, you can download these on the YouTube. Go to the YouTube description. They're all there. Northwest, again, green's good. Outer London doing quite well there. Looks like new instructions is, but again, not much. I mean, again, it's all quite tight and close. So really to Scotland seems to be doing well. Southeast, again, the Southeast does power the market a lot. Again, lots of greens there. That's what we like to see. Southwest and Wales, again, it's all greens, isn't it?
I mean, it is. Yes, looks really encouraging.
West Midlands and Yorkshire, again, all greens. So I mean, it's all looking pretty darn good. I have screen dumped these, but again, we're not going to spend too much here. But again, we're just looking at the ratios, comparing. Not much change, but again, this is more for the really geeky geeks people. You can download these and look at these to your heart's content. I don't know if there's anything else you want to just talk about here. We've done the cumulative stats, so I think what we need to do, mate, is go to Gloucester. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Anything to say on the regions before we go there?
I think just the color coding, green is good and red is bad, it just goes to prove the point. People have accepted the market that we're in. And as I said, the market is arguably the best market that you can get. It's just the right side of the line from a tough marketplace, a good agency, the right valuing process. Use data to price. Please don't use the lines of I think your home is worth. Please use lines of the data is indicating that your home is worth. And think about your vendor strategy, because 60% of homes are selling with a second agent already, according to Rightmove. So if you do win an instruction, you've got to make sure that you've got a strategy to retain it.
Good stuff. Right then, so we are now going to the beautiful city of Gloucester. So you should be able to see the 20 EA Insights platform. Can you see that?
I can indeed.
Pardon me. So, boys and girls, all the data for today has been produced by 20 EA through their Insights platform. They give access to me, and in return, I give it to you lot. If you wanted this sort of data on your town, you too can buy 20 EA Insights. And please don't mention my name, because I don't get kickbacks here, do I? Bloody should do. But never mind.
You definitely should do, but you definitely don't.
Definitely don't. So it's whether you buy this or not is entirely up to you. There are other platforms available to give this sort of information. And if you are a platform out there and you think your platform is better than this, then send it to me and I might use it. Okay. Right then, Gloucester. Now there's some amazing stats here, Iain, that I want to share with you. And we're going to kick off and we're going to look at market share, because you know what a stage it's like, they really get turned on by market share. Now this is, it's very, very rare, but let's just have a quick look. The Property Centre, look at their market share for the last 2 and a bit years. And it is it's nearly triple numbers 2 and 3. I mean, that is unheard of, isn't it?
It's not unheard of, but it's unusual, because it's usually a very competitive marketplace with that's tightly fought. I don't know the Property Centre intimately. I don't know their setup. I don't know branch numbers, etc. I mean, for me, it's
about 7 or 8 branches, mainly in Gloucester, a few in the south, a couple bit north, but mainly in Gloucester. I did have the pleasure of interviewing one of their directors when they'd had a few lager shandies at the Esters, and I had a word with their team on the table, and they seem really nice people. Really nice.
There's at Countrywide Days, we always used to talk about what's the par performance. So if you've got, and it might well be that their par performance is also significantly good, so you have to put relativity. So the guild member there is Steve Gooch, great company, doing very well, 1 branch firm. If you were to look at their performance versus the Property Centre, how does it compare with number of staff, number of offices, etc.? So that's always, just when you're looking at macro data, that's the thing to always take into consideration. But what you would say is clearly the Property Centre are doing something right.
They certainly are. And again, the Insights platform allows you. So this is new instructions. We can have a quick look, and that works particularly well. Let us move on and look at this is stock levels, if memory serves me well. So you can see that their percentage of stock levels has been moving quite nicely along. And again, Murdoch and Wasley again. Now, what is particularly interesting with Murdoch and Wasley is they only started their agency, Iain, in lockdown 1.
Okay.
So by the end of lockdown, by the end of 2020, these guys here and Luke Murdoch, spoken to him in the past, lovely bloke. I mean, to be at 7% market share in a city within a year is good going, and then he's been bubbling along quite nicely. Really nice guys. I've not met Matthew Wasley himself, but as I said, Luke Murdoch comes across as a nice lad when I've spoken to him on the phone. And interestingly, they don't use Zoopla. They just put everything on Rightmove, big on Facebook Reels. Everybody has a big social presence. Maybe something for you to learn, boys and girls, moving forward.
Yeah. Well done to them. Many congratulations. So well done for backing yourselves at a difficult time, and congratulations for the results so far.
Indeed. We now move on and talk about my favorite screen, which is the and there's a lot of data here, but I think this is the magic. I'm not necessarily concerned on new instructions because we've talked about new instructions in the past. What I'm concerned is what I love about this particular graph here, and it does wind an awful lot of people up, but I think simply fact is this: it's all very good putting it at the top of the funnel. If a property leaves an estate agent, it's either exchanged or withdrawn, isn't it? That's a simple fact. Okay. So therefore, the number of properties that have left the property centre in the last 12 months is 734 plus 191. That's what's left their books. That is what this Insight platform using the omni competitive landscape. And again, this is a bit of a geeky heaven, but stay with me, boys and girls, on this one. So 79.35% of the houses that they have left their agency, they've exchanged contracts on, and 20 have been withdrawn, which means for every 100 houses they put on the market, they've exchanged on 79.35. Now, look at the average. The city average is 65.38. Now, normally the big agent has one of the lowest in the top 10 figures. That obviously shows the property centre have done really well there, haven't they?
Yeah, and so if you're a rival of them, you need to do some analysis of what it is that they're doing. So do they have a sales chaser? Are they instructing solicitors at time of instruction? That's one of the things absolutely categorically I would be doing in this marketplace today. Is I would be on every valuation, I'd be doing a cost of moving exercise. I'd go through with every seller what the conveyancing cost is, what the survey cost is, what my fee is. You can merge it into that, and I would be getting every single instruction new to them, the market, to instruct their conveyancer. So are they doing that? There's lots of things that you can do to twist the dial that keep your sales. It's the Sir Clive Woodward marginal gains. It's not doing one thing 100% better. It's doing 100 things 1% better. All the little touches along the way that can help.
I mean, we're just having a quick look here. Purple Bricks at 74, EXP at 74, Moves at 68, CJ Hole 69. Notice that there's not actually that many corporates in Gloucester.
No, that's interesting.
Isn't there? I mean, Andrews are they're not a corporate. They say they're not a corporate, and I must admit, Carl Howard, who is their new CEO, is a fantastic, insightful man. I think watch this space, boys and girls. He's going somewhere with Andrews if they let him give him enough rope to that. I think he's going. So I like him. But again, there's no big I can't see any big corporates there. And I think Taylor's might be. Don't know. I need to check on that one.
There's Taylor's. Yeah, number 9, Taylor's.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's the Taylors that are country Connell sequence Taylors. I must check that out. CJ Hole. I think they are part of the property franchise group, so there will be a franchise operation. But again, boys and girls, let's just come back to this. If you are, an agent in the 70s and your competitors is 64, then yes, that might be a 10% difference on that, but proportionally, that's more like a 15 to 20% proportional. So when you're sitting down with Mrs. Miggins at the property, you can actually say, well, you've got a 15 to 20% greater chance of selling your house. This is where the power of data is. We're all guilty of, and this is what I teach my clients, is we're all guilty of trying to prove that we're worth the money. Well, the data's out there.
Yeah, and you can also, from this, you can predict an agent's strategy. So if you look at Murdoch and Waisley, their 40% price change ratio, I would bet my mortgage that they're buying the instruction at time of valuation. They're going in and they're valuing higher. Now, I don't know if that is actually the case.
Well, we've got some data on that. Should we go and have a look?
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. So again, this is Gloucester. So again, all the data comes from 20 EA Insights. If you've got an issue with the data, do contact them directly. But this is but all the big boys use them, and their parent company 20CI are used by some of the biggest firms in the world. Okay, so what we've got here is, and again, for those, apologies for anyone that's watched this before gets it, but some people haven't. What they do is this: for every property that you put on the market, they have an automated valuation model figure price for that house. I know, there's always issues with AVM models, but if the same model's going at the same houses, we're all gonna have the same issues, aren't they? Yeah. And what they do is this: they look at what the property came on the market for versus what they think it's worth. And as you can see here, the property centre 2.9% over the asking, over what they think it was worth. Right. And Murdoch's you said, Murdoch's buying it in?
Yeah.
Well, potentially. I mean, again, you've got Taylor Wimper here, but again, that is a modern house, so that they're brand new, so we can ignore those. But there's nothing silly there, is there? There's not 6%.
And so it therefore could be that their strategy is to create a lean price and go for offers over, which is a perfectly legitimate strategy. So long as they're communicating it with their customers and they know what they're getting, what they're delivering, that will work for them.
And then the price achieved, that's the percentage from the original asking price versus what they actually sold it for. Again, things have been slightly over asking price in the last 12 months. If we go back 12 months.
Yeah.
And again, we've got some slightly positive figures here. But again, percentages are percentages. So what they then actually do is then apply that to a standard £300,000 house. So therefore, if the property centre had an average 300 grand house in Gloucester, they would sell it for 311, Murdoch's 309, Michael Tuck's 307, Far and Far 301, Andrews 38, Steve Gooch 308, 307 for Naylor Powell, Thomas and Thomas 308, and Taylor's 312. And again, there's some other stuff in there that you can see, which again, all the other agents in Gloucester, you can have a look at yourself. Again, just fascinating data that you can use on the doorstep.
Yeah.
Let's move on and talk about how quick agents take to sell a house. And you suggested how quick do agents sell? Well, interestingly, you'll notice that Andrews down here, that they are selling houses within 58 days. So just a little bit longer there. So again, if you were up against someone who says, well, I need to be in quickly, then it looks like Thomas and Michael Tuck are your boys and girls, aren't they?
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Again, the power is in the data. Let's go and look at lettings before we go. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, love to.
So again, as I would expect, open rent, which I learned a lot of private landlords use, are number one. Last week in Oxford, it wasn't number one, it was number 4, which is quite unique. Okay. Property centre, again, this is wonderful to see, not for the others, but normally if you're a damn good estate agent, your lettings agent is sadly lacking. They're doing all right, aren't they?
Yeah, that's a strong set of figures. And it used to be that lettings was the either in the back office or upstairs, didn't it? But now it's the mainstay of many organisations, and it's about finding the synergy and the relationship between not thinking about customers as individual entities, putting the person at the centre of it, and saying that Chris Watkins might be selling his home, but is he also a landlord? Is he a mortgage customer? Just looking at the opportunities that each customer can deliver to your business.
Fantastic. I mean, again, it looks like a nice even mix, but just nice to see that property centre. I mean, obviously Murdoch's, they went in estate agency, so they're not going to have a big lettings book. Far and Far, who were number 3, number 4 in the town for sales, they're up there as well. Great to see CJT lettings with Anne Carrad and her team. Yeah, just nice to see some figures. Let's just see if we've got any more figures before we finish. This just talks about their growth of new instructions. But again, I think you've got to be slightly careful because agents have been holding back with their new instructions, but it looks like the move sales are doing quite well. And the property centre, again, nice to see that they are growing, but unfortunately, Far and Far and Martin & Co seem to be slipping back there on their lettings. But again, it's very difficult on lettings to judge a portfolio because a lot of tenants are sitting put and not moving. Therefore, the property's not coming on for rent. It's not coming for rent, it won't show in your figures. And also, an awful lot of the letting agents are not even putting them on the website because they know they'll have 20, 60 people and they've probably already got someone for it. So interesting times. Boys and girls, again, those figures are from 20EA Insights. Do check them out. If you've got any issues with the stats, give them a call. Let's go back for the final word for Iain McKenzie. Now, again, Iain, you are a fantastic estate agent. You run an 800 branch network. You have the finger on the pulse. What's your final thoughts for the estate and letting agents and data geeks watching this with the stats that we've seen today?
I think that you really need to look at your marketing strategy. So I think the point that you made, Chris, cash flow is poor first quarter, and I get it. It's difficult. But when you first set up your agencies, you didn't have any cash flow because you had a zero pipeline and you backed yourselves. So now is the time to back yourself again, because the data is showing that the market has recovered from Trustonomics. We've had the whole of the first quarter from a cash flow perspective. So invest in your future, but be very careful about how you invest. Invest in the right way. Don't waste money. Use data to go over after the right types of property in the right locations from a sales and rental perspective, and generate leads. But what is the point of generating leads if you then just don't deal with the leads? Then make sure you've trained and nurtured your staff and your colleagues to convert those leads into business.
Iain, thank you for your time today. I'd like to invite you back in about a month's time. You're always exceptional and one of my favorite guests, but I say that to everyone, just so everyone. Thank you for watching this program. We hope that has been of interest to you. All the slides are available to download for personal use on the YouTube description write-up. I'd like to say thank you again to the boys and girls at Property Industry Eye. I've putting our video up there for the industry to see. If you've got any questions, comments, please do, especially bad ones, please put them into the YouTube comments. And thank you for watching.
Thanks very much.